change to be understood in these times. We have new circumstances. We have to have new thinking. We have to think out of the box. These terms. And so on the basis of this kind of terminology, they make permissible what has been haram for 1,000 years. While saying we're following Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Quran and Sunnah, but they ended up making halal what has been haram for 1,400 years. Because it is a modernist approach, an approach which does not have its roots in the understanding of the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said, "Khairun nasi qarni." The best of people are my generation. ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ, then those who follow them. ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ, then those who follow them. The first 3 generations. He gave special sanction to them. Meaning that if we are to have the best understanding of Islam, it must have been the understanding of the best of generations. Truly, I think that's common sense. Those who were around the Prophet ﷺ when revelation came, they saw how he applied it in his life. They heard his instructions. They lived in accordance with the revelation as it was interpreted by Prophet Muhammad ﷺ Sunnah. Surely they must have the best understanding of Islam. And that is what made them the best of generations. Then the generation which followed them, those who sat with those who were there when the revelation came, again, they would have a better understanding than the generations to come. And similarly, the third. What we're talking about now are parents and grandchildren. These are the 3 generations. Mostly, we don't get to see our great-great-grandchildren. Mostly. Your children, your grandchildren, yeah. So, the first generation, those are the parents, the Sahaba. The children were the Tabi'een. Not literally, but they were their children in knowledge. And then their grandchildren, the second generation, the Tabi'een, they all lived that same pool of knowledge and understanding. And that understanding, which is found in those parents, children, and grandchildren, this is what is referred to fundamentally as the Salaf. The early righteous generation of knowledgeable forefathers. That their understanding of Islam would be the best understanding. That anything that we have to deal with today, when we're going to use the Quran and the Sunnah to resolve our issues and our problems, then we have to look at the Quran and Sunnah in accordance with how they understood it, that first generation, and apply that understanding to our times. Now, there are some things which they understood, which may be related to science and technology. And today we know that it's not quite that way. It was understood that way based on the knowledge they had. That is another category. We don't mix this one with that one. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he left a principle to guide us in this matter. In the matters of the dunya, the science and technology, acquired knowledge, as opposed to revealed knowledge. What we're talking about here of the Salaf, this is in relationship to revealed knowledge. What is not revealed knowledge, meaning that through direct revelation, because all real knowledge is revealed. Even the knowledge of science and technology, this didn't come about by human creation. No. Whatever Allah allows human beings to know, to understand, it has been known and understood. So it is indirect revelation. We call it acquired knowledge. But acquired knowledge meaning you didn't have that knowledge, you got it from somewhere. Where? Ultimately from Allah. When Allah said, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. When Allah taught Adam the names of all things, this was the foundation for all knowledge. It was all there from the time of Adam till the end of this world. The ability to categorize and to give names to things so that we can then utilize them in different ways, this was given to Adam, and we are just the inheritors. So, when we look at this body of knowledge, of revealed knowledge, we said that as it was understood by the Salaf is what we are obliged to follow as Muslims. In order to preserve Islam and the correct understanding of Islam for the generations to come, ours and those who would come after us. Where that is not applied, people deviate. What happened to Christianity? Prophet Jesus, alayhi salam, he taught Islam as Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught Islam. He had a book of Revelation, the Injil, translated as the Gospel. And he had Sahaba around him. They call them disciples. And after his passing, those disciples continued to convey his message. However, that message was hijacked by an individual known as Paul of Tarsus. He hijacked the message. He had been torturing followers of Jesus, was unable to stop this movement which was growing, developing. So he then claimed that Jesus came to him in a vision on his way to Damascus. And so he became the spiritual son of Jesus. And he started his own interpretations. He wasn't from the Sahaba, nor from the Tabi'een, because he didn't study under the students of the Sahaba. He was just off by himself with his own interpretation. And so he systematically dismantled the Sharia. That's what he did. If you read and you see what happened to Christianity, you see that happening exactly, step by step. It was known in the Sharia that you don't eat pork. Very open and obvious issue. Don't eat pork. Pork is haram, Deuteronomy lists it, forbidden. But Paul made an interpretation. He said in his writings, it is not that which enters your mouth which defiles you, but that which comes from your mouth. This is philosophy. It sounds very reasonable. It's true in that sense. You know, what defiles us most? What we say. What Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had said, what takes people to hell? Mostly the product or the harvest of the tongues. Not what we eat, but what comes from these tongues. He says, you promise me, took a hold of his tongue, promise me what is between your two jaws, what is between your legs. He promised you, keep it halal, and I'll promise you paradise. So, there is truth, but not in the context of haram and halal. What has been defined as haram by Allah will remain haram until the end of this world. So what he did was he took a philosophical concept, which is true in its philosophical essence. But when you use that now to interpret what was halal and haram and then made haram halal, you said, oh, this is deviation, this is misguidance. For him, it was a modern understanding because he was now living amongst the Greek people of Nicaea, of Antioch, and moving into Greece and Rome and dealing with the Romans and the Greeks, etc. That we need another approach in order to win them over. That's what he was saying. That's what he was saying. In order to win them over, we have to have another approach. These people love pork. So for you to tell them, please come become Christian, but you have to stop eating this pork, you're going to lose them. So we need to approach this in a different way. Modern times, using modern methods. So he philosophically made halal the eating of pork. Also, another example, just to give a few examples of this type of thinking, because this thing is the same thing we're hearing today. You know, they've put it under another heading, but it's the same thing. We can hear it in the society today. We see it in the newspapers, we find it in magazines. We have people saying the same thing, but just in a slight different wording. It is recorded in the Gospels, in spite of their distortion, that Jesus was circumcised on the 8th day. And actually, for a thinking Christian, that should be enough to tell him this couldn't be God. For a thinking Christian, that should be enough. Just read that verse there where it said, and Jesus was circumcised on the 8th day. That should be enough.